They say the darkest hour always comes before the dawn, but most people never live to see their sunrise. Most people quit before the miracle happens, not because they're weak, not because they're cursed, but because they've been conditioned to give up when the world grows silent. The silence between the effort and the reward is the most dangerous battlefield in a person's life. It's the space where dreams either die or grow teeth. It's the hour when most walk away, not realizing they were inches from everything they ever wanted. You can feel it, can't you? That moment when you've been pushing, building, sacrificing, and yet nothing moves. The world doesn't applaud. No one is watching. No one claps for the late nights or the broken sleep or the endless failures that no one will ever know about. And in that quiet, something begins to whisper. That voice that says, maybe this isn't meant for you. Maybe this isn't your time. Maybe this is where it ends. That voice has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Because failure doesn't end you. Quitting does. The people who change their lives, the ones you read about in history books, the ones whose names are etched into the walls of time, they weren't always the smartest or the strongest or the luckiest. But they had something most never develop. They had the ability to keep walking when the world felt empty. They had the courage to keep fighting when no one was cheering. They had the stubborn, almost irrational belief that just beyond the darkness was light. Thomas Edison worked through thousands of failed experiments in the dark before the world called him a genius. Henry Ford was mocked before his machines changed transportation forever. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination before he built a kingdom of dreams. What separated them from the millions who quit wasn't talent. It was resilience. When you set out to build something extraordinary, your dream, your business, your craft, your purpose, there will always come a moment when the ground feels like it's swallowing you whole. A moment where progress feels like it's moving backward. A moment where you wonder if this is all just a cruel joke. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. This is the test. Not the beginning. Not the end. The test. This is where life separates the curious from the committed, the talkers from the doers, the dreamers from the builders. This is where most quit, and the few who don't rise like fire through steel. The world has trained you to expect quick results. Push a button. Get a reward. Post a picture. Get a like. Do something hard for 3 weeks, and expect to be rich, famous, or celebrated. But greatness doesn't follow shortcuts. It doesn't bend to impatience. It's carved out of the long nights when no one is watching, the small habits that no one celebrates, the silent hours when doubt sits across from you, smiling, waiting for you to give up. That's where miracles are born. Not on the first try, not on the 10th, but usually on the 1000th when almost everyone else is already gone. Imagine for a moment the man mining for gold. He spends months digging into the mountain, every day harder than the last. The pickaxe blisters his hands. The cold eats into his bones. The tunnel grows darker with every foot. And after all that, he swings one last time, sighs, and drops the pickaxe because nothing has shined. What he didn't know was that the gold vein lay just 3 inches further. 3 inches between despair and destiny. And when he walked away, the mountain didn't care. Success doesn't chase those who stop. When you quit, you don't just walk away from the work. You walk away from the miracle waiting on the other side of persistence. You walk away from the version of yourself you could have become. The world will always give you a reason to stop. It will always hand you easy exits. It will say, it's too hard, it's not fair, it's taking too long, and if you listen long enough, it will convince you that mediocrity is safety. But mediocrity is a cage built by those who feared their own greatness. Look around you. Every empire, every company, every movement began with someone standing alone, choosing not to quit. The empire you admire was once just an idea whispered in someone's heart. That billionaire you quote was once laughed at in a garage. That artist you love was once told to get a real job. They felt the silence too. They felt the doubt. They had their dark nights when nothing worked. But they refused to let that be the end of their story. Most people wait for external proof before they believe. They wait for signs, applause, results. But the most dangerous truth about success is that proof comes last. Belief comes first. You must believe in the dark long before the world gives you light. Edison didn't keep going because the world believed in him. The world thought he was mad. He kept going because he had a vision. Abraham Lincoln didn't rise to greatness because people cheered for him. They mocked him, defeated him, doubted him again and again. He kept going because he knew purpose is louder than failure. Andrew Carnegie wasn't handed success. He built it from the ground up with belief sharper than steel. And that's what separates the miracle makers from the quitters. It's not about motivation. Motivation is a spark. But belief is a furnace that never stops burning. Motivation dies when results are slow. Belief grows when everything else breaks. You have to decide which one fuels you. Because when the road grows quiet and the world gives you nothing but silence, only belief will keep your hands moving, your feet walking, your spirit alive. There's a reason so few climb to the top. It's not that they're special. It's that they keep climbing when everyone else looks down and says, "I've gone far enough." But the peak doesn't reward those who almost made it. It rewards those who refuse to look back. Those who crawl when their legs shake. Those who keep swinging the pickaxe when it feels pointless. Those who decide that if the world won't give them a miracle, they'll create their own. And if you've ever felt like quitting, if you've ever felt the crushing weight of failure pressing down on your chest, let me tell you something. That's not a sign to stop. That's a sign you're closer than you think. The resistance you feel is proof that you're pressing against something real. The universe tests those it's about to reward, not to break them, but to see if they're ready to receive what they're asking for. Think of every seed buried beneath the soil. It spends weeks in the dark, unseen, uncelebrated, before it ever sees the sun. If it could think like a human, it might give up, thinking nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, it's growing roots, building strength, preparing to rise. That's you. Right now. If you're in the dark, if no one sees you, if your results haven't bloomed yet, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means you're growing roots. And the worst thing you can do is dig yourself up before you bloom. This is the brutal truth most people can't face. Success does not belong to the talented. It belongs to the relentless. It belongs to the ones who keep showing up. It belongs to the ones who decide quitting is not an option. It belongs to those who see failure not as the end but as the soil from which the miracle grows. That's why most people never see their miracle. They walk away before the roots break through the ground. They quit because they can't stand the silence, because they thought it would happen faster, because they mistook waiting for failure. But the few who stay, they watch the impossible unfold. So the next time you stand at that edge, when your heart screams to stop, when your mind whispers that it's pointless, remember this truth. That moment isn't your ending. That moment is your test. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. And if you can hold the line, if you can stand in the silence and keep moving, something extraordinary begins to shift. The same world that ignored you will soon be forced to watch you rise. They tell you discipline is hard. But that's only because they've never truly experienced the cost of regret. Regret is heavier than any routine. Regret doesn't fade. It festers in the quiet corners of the soul, whispering what could have been. Discipline isn't punishment. It's protection. Discipline is the shield between your dreams and the excuses that will try to steal them. It's the voice that whispers at 5 a.m. when your body begs to sleep, "We're not done yet." It's the silent ally standing beside you when everyone else disappears. Discipline isn't glamorous, it doesn't need applause, and it doesn't care if anyone notices. Discipline is how dreams survive the silence that kills most ambitions. Look at history and you'll see the pattern again and again. Thomas Edison did not just believe. He showed up every single day, even when thousands of failures stood between him and the light. Henry Ford was mocked for chasing a dream of engines and assembly lines, but his discipline kept him at the factory floor long after his critics went home. Walt Disney faced rejection after rejection, was told he lacked creativity, that his dreams were foolish, but his discipline made the impossible a reality. Their miracles didn't come to them. They walked to it, one disciplined step at a time. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't need to shout. It lives in the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. It's in the way you train your mind to push forward when your emotions beg you to stop. It's the art of showing up on the worst days, when the world feels cold and your spirit trembles. Because here's the truth. If you only move when you feel like it, you'll never build anything that lasts. Feelings are waves. They rise. They crash. But discipline is the anchor. It holds you steady when everything else is trying to drag you under. There will be days when the fire inside you burns bright and nothing can stop you. And then there will be days when everything you touch feels heavy, when even breathing feels like work. Those are the days that define your future. Not the easy ones. The hard ones. The days that try to break you are the same days that forge you. Success isn't built on perfect mornings. It's built on the mornings where you felt like quitting but didn't. It's built on nights when you were tired, broken, and alone, but still showed up. That is where champions are made. And this is where clarity steps in. Because if you don't know why you're fighting, you won't survive the fight. Most people quit not because they're weak, but because they've lost sight of why they started. Your vision is your compass. It's the fire that burns when the world is cold. When your reasons are weak, your excuses will win. But when your purpose burns brighter than your pain, no obstacle can make you bow. You must know what you're building, and more importantly, why you refuse to walk away from it. Clarity turns ordinary effort into focused power. When you know your destination, every small step has meaning. Every hard day has purpose. Every silence becomes preparation, not punishment. Think of Abraham Lincoln, a man who lost elections, lost loved ones, and carried unimaginable pain. But his clarity of vision held him upright when the world tried to crush him. He didn't keep going because it was easy. He kept going because he knew what he stood for. Purpose carried him through storms that would have broken most. When you are clear on your vision, setbacks stop feeling like walls and start feeling like stepping stones. Every rejection becomes redirection. Every delay becomes training. Every failure becomes a blueprint. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, try me. And the truth is, clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from deciding. At some point, you stop waiting for perfect plans, perfect timing, perfect signs. You choose. You commit. And you make your vision so real in your mind that the world has no choice but to follow. This is the power most people never unlock. They build a weak vision and wonder why it collapses under pressure. But the strong don't build castles of sand. They carve their vision in stone, they plant their roots deep, and when the storm comes, they don't run. They grip tighter. That's why so many quit just before the miracle. They never burned the bridge behind them. They always kept a way out. But those who achieve the impossible don't keep exits. They burn them. They decide, this is it. I'm not going back. And from that moment, the world changes. Once your clarity sharpens, purpose becomes your fuel. Purpose isn't just a pretty word. It's the heartbeat beneath every great story in history. Purpose is what carried soldiers through impossible battles, inventors through sleepless nights, dreamers through storms that would have drowned the ordinary. Purpose isn't found. It's claimed. It's forged in the fires of decision. It's born the moment you stop waiting for permission and start building your own destiny. Most people wait for their purpose to arrive like a gift. They keep looking outward, searching for something to give their lives meaning. But true purpose is built from within. It comes when you decide what kind of person you refuse to die without becoming. It comes when you say, this matters. I matter. My dream matters. And once you have that, once purpose grabs your spine, quitting becomes unthinkable. Pain stops being the enemy. It becomes the teacher. Discipline and clarity mean nothing without purpose. Because purpose is what makes pain worth it. It's what makes silence survivable. It's what makes sacrifice meaningful. And when purpose lives in you, something changes in your walk, in your voice, in the way you show up. You stop moving like a beggar and start walking like a builder. You stop waiting for luck and start creating momentum. You stop asking if it will work and start saying, I will make it work. But purpose alone isn't enough. Purpose must be forged into action. And this is where most people fall apart. They believe in their dream, they speak their vision, they set goals, but when it's time to move, their feet freeze. They wait for the perfect feeling, the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances. And while they wait, their dreams die in the soil of hesitation. Action doesn't wait for comfort. Action builds its own momentum. You don't need to see the entire path to start walking. You just need to take the first step, then another, then another. When Andrew Carnegie came to America with nothing, he didn't have certainty, he had movement. He knocked on doors. He took every step available, no matter how small. When Ford built his first engine, he didn't have guarantees. He had motion. Every miracle you admire started in motion, not perfection. This is where belief and action dance. Belief is the fire, action is the oxygen. Without action, belief is just smoke. Without belief, action dies in fear. Together, they forge miracles. Most people quit not because they don't dream, but because they stop moving when the fog sets in. But those who push through the fog, who keep walking with no applause, no map, no clarity except what burns inside their chest, those are the ones who eventually step into the light that everyone else gave up on. This is why the miracle happens just after most people stop. The universe doesn't give its treasures to the impatient. It gives them to the relentless, to the ones who move when no one is watching, to the ones who understand that momentum is built in the quiet, in the invisible hours where everyone else is asleep. You want to build something extraordinary? Then get comfortable with being unseen. Because your miracle doesn't need an audience. It needs your obedience to the vision. And here's something few understand. Your dream will test you long before it blesses you. It will strip away your comfort, your ego, your illusions. It will show you who you are when no one's clapping. It will demand sacrifice. But if you keep walking, if you keep acting, if you keep breathing fire into your belief through movement, the world will have no choice but to bend. Because persistence wears down resistance. It always has. It always will. Action is the bridge between your vision and your reality. You can talk about success, write about success, dream about success, but until you move, nothing changes. And once you move, even the smallest step starts a storm. Every giant you admire once stood in the same fog, the same doubt, the same silence, and they just kept moving. They didn't wait to feel ready. They built their strength in the walk. The world will never hand you your dream wrapped in gold. It will hand you chaos, uncertainty, and storms designed to break you. And this is where adaptability becomes your armor. You must learn to bend without breaking. The road to your miracle is never straight. It's a battlefield of shifting ground, unpredictable winds, and doors that slam shut without warning. The dreamers who crumble when the plan changes are not weak. They're simply unprepared for the truth. Success has never belonged to the rigid. It belongs to the adaptable. Life will throw storms at you, not to crush you, but to force you to grow. If you want the miracle, you must learn to dance in the rain, not curse the storm. You must learn to see detours not as punishment, but as the path. It wasn't the strongest species that survived. It wasn't even the smartest. It was the ones who adapted. When Thomas Edison's lab burned down overnight, he didn't fall to the floor in defeat. He watched the flames and said, "Thank God all our mistakes burned with it." He adapted. When Walt Disney was betrayed, underfunded, and stolen from, he didn't crawl into the dark. He created something bigger. Adaptation is not giving up on your dream. It's adjusting your sails to meet the wind. The people who quit before the miracle often believe the path should look a certain way. They cling to the picture in their mind and panic when it doesn't match reality. But reality doesn't care about your picture. It cares about your persistence. When the plan breaks, the mission remains. When the road crumbles, you find a new path. This is the mindset that separates those who make it from those who don't. Those who adapt don't get weaker, they get sharper. Every storm becomes training. Every closed door becomes redirection. Every failure becomes a stepping stone carved out of the fire. Resilience is born in these storms. It's not a gift. It's a choice. Resilience is the refusal to die in the middle of your story. It's the quiet voice that says, "Not yet," when the world screams, "Give up." It's the strength that grows not when everything works, but when everything breaks. History's giants were not spared from pain. Abraham Lincoln buried his dreams in defeat over and over before rising to greatness. Henry Ford failed multiple businesses before building an empire. Andrew Carnegie rose from poverty to power through storms that would have crushed most men. Their resilience wasn't some magic power. It was forged through trials. Resilience is like steel. It's not born shiny and sharp. It's forged in fire, hammered, bent, shaped, and cooled over time. That's what your struggle is doing to you. It's not punishing you. It's forging you. But here's the brutal truth. Most people never let the forging finish. They step out of the fire too early. They quit before the metal hardens. And then they wonder why life feels hollow. Your pain has a purpose. Your setbacks are not the end. They are the making of the weapon you'll become. But resilience without learning is wasted. Every failure is a lesson written in bold letters. But if you refuse to read it, you'll keep repeating the same chapter. Most people see failure as proof they're not good enough. The successful see failure as the most honest teacher they'll ever have. When Thomas Edison was asked how he could endure thousands of failed attempts at creating the light bulb, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is learning. That is power. When something falls apart, don't just cry about it. Study it. Dissect it. Find out why it broke. Your setbacks contain the exact lessons that will unlock your breakthrough. But most people turn away too fast. They get hurt, they bleed a little, and they decide they're done. But those who rise sit with their pain long enough to understand it. They mine gold from the rubble. They build wisdom from the wreckage. That's how you turn failure into fuel. The miracle doesn't arrive wrapped in comfort. It arrives when you've learned to adapt, to stay, to rise, to study, to keep walking with bleeding feet if you must. It's easy to talk about resilience in bright rooms with perfect air. It's another thing to live it in the dirt, in the silence, in the nights where everything inside you is screaming to let go. That's where warriors are made. That's where your miracle is hiding. In the dirt most people are too afraid to dig through. And here's the thing the world won't tell you. You are stronger than the pain trying to bury you. You were built for this. Every sleepless night, every silent tear, every moment of fear has been forging you into someone the world cannot break. If you choose to keep going, the pain that once tried to end you will one day become the story that inspires millions. Because nothing speaks louder than the voice of someone who survived their breaking point and didn't quit. But resilience is not just about surviving. It's about transforming. It's about using the storm to sharpen your blade. It's about standing up with dirt on your face, scars on your soul, and fire in your eyes, whispering, "You hit me hard, but I'm still here." That moment changes everything. That moment tells the universe you are not a visitor in this fight. You're a permanent resident. You didn't come to try. You came to conquer. And then, when you least expect it, something shifts. The same doors that slammed shut begin to crack open. The same silence that once mocked you begins to whisper back. The same mountain that once towered over you begins to tremble beneath your feet. Not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you became unbreakable. The miracle does not happen when everything is perfect. It happens when you are forged strong enough to hold it. And this is the tragedy of quitting too soon. Most people give up at the exact moment life is testing their readiness to receive what they asked for. They think the storm means it's over, when in truth, the storm means the blessing is near. Every seed faces pressure before it breaks the ground. Every diamond is forged in crushing darkness before it shines. Every miracle hides behind a moment that looks like failure. And the ones who quit will never know how close they were to breaking through. But those who stay, those who endure, those who choose to keep breathing when the air gets thin, those are the ones who see the world bend. They are the ones who stand in the sunlight after walking through a storm that would have broken 10,000 others. And when they finally rise, the same world that ignored them now calls them unstoppable, lucky, chosen. But luck had nothing to do with it. They simply refused to quit before the miracle. There is power in choosing to stay. Not staying still, staying the course. Standing firm when the wind howls. Holding the line when your legs shake. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to refuse to bow. Because this world doesn't reward those who almost make it. It rewards those who won't let go of the rope no matter how much their hands bleed. One day, the silence you're walking through right now will become the story someone else listens to when they want to quit. One day, your scars will speak louder than your victories. One day, you'll understand why the path was so hard. Because the miracle isn't just the prize. It's the person you become in the fight to reach it. The real miracle isn't what happens outside. It's what happens inside. It's how you change. It's how your soul learns to rise from the ashes it once feared. And so I say to you now, with every ounce of fire this world has ever forged in men and women who refuse to bow, do not quit. Do not walk away from the storm that's meant to crown you. Do not let your miracle die in the dirt 3 inches from gold. Hold the line. Breathe through the darkness. Keep walking through the silence. One more step. One more swing. One more breath. Because that one moment might be the moment everything shifts. The miracle is waiting for the few who choose to keep going. The few who choose to believe when no one claps. The few who plant their feet in the fire and whisper, "Not today. I am not done." And when they rise, the world remembers their names, not because they were chosen, but because they chose themselves when no one else did. The miracle does not belong to the gifted. It belongs to the relentless. To those who understood that quitting is the enemy, not failure. Failure is the soil. Quitting is the grave. You are not meant to be buried. You are meant to rise. So rise again. Rise until the silence breaks. Rise until the storm bows. Rise until the miracle that waited in the dark finally steps into the light with you. And when it happens, and it will, you will look back on these nights, these storms, these scars, and you will realize they were never your punishment. They were your preparation. Your pain was not wasted. Your silence was not empty. Every step, every crack, every lonely night brought you here. To the miracle. To the moment most never see. The moment when persistence turns into power. The moment when everything changes. The miracle is waiting. And the only question that matters now is, will you keep walking long enough to see it? Every great story has a breaking point. A moment when the hero stands at the edge, when their lungs burn, their body shakes, and their mind screams for the pain to end. And it's here, right here, where most turn back. Not because they can't go on, but because they forget who they are. Because fear convinces them that pain is proof they're not meant to rise. But pain is not the signal to stop. Pain is the signal that you are exactly where the miracle begins. Think about it. Every extraordinary human the world has ever celebrated had a night where quitting was easier than breathing. Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat before he became a symbol of strength. Thomas Edison was called a fool thousands of times before the world called him a genius. Walt Disney filed bankruptcy before he built magic. Henry Ford was laughed at before the world drove his vision. Andrew Carnegie rose from the dirt when no one believed a poor boy could touch power. These men didn't see miracles because they were special. They saw them because they didn't walk away. Most people stop in the dark. But those who keep walking discover that the dark was not a wall. It was a hallway. A hallway that led to everything they prayed for. They stop swinging the hammer one strike before the door would have cracked open. They stop climbing just before the summit. And then they say, "It wasn't meant to be." But destiny doesn't deny those who keep walking. Destiny bows to those who refuse to kneel. Listen closely. Your dream is testing you not because it wants to break you, but because it wants to know if you're ready to carry what you've asked for. The miracle isn't something fragile. It demands strength. It demands the kind of soul that has been tempered by storms. And if you're in the storm right now, if you feel like every breath is a war, then you are closer than you think. You are standing where history is written, not in comfort, but in fire. The silence is not your enemy. It is the forge. The waiting is not a void. It is the training ground. The pain is not punishment. It is the price of power. Every seed must crack before it grows. Every diamond must be crushed before it shines. Every warrior must bleed before they conquer. So when your chest tightens and your hands tremble, do not turn back. Lift your chin. Breathe. Whisper to yourself, "This is the moment." Because here's the truth the world hides behind polished smiles. The ones who win don't always feel strong. They just refuse to let their weakness decide for them. They don't always feel brave. They just act as if courage is already theirs. They don't always know the way. They just keep walking forward even when the path disappears. And because they keep going, something extraordinary happens. The universe bends. The walls crack. The silence breaks. One day, this season of your life will become a story. One day, the very storm that is trying to bury you will become the mountain you stand on. One day, the nights that hurt the most will be the foundation of your power. One day, someone will look at you and say, "You made it look easy," and you will smile because they will never know the weight you carried in silence. The miracle is never far. It only hides behind persistence. It hides behind those brutal final miles when your lungs are begging you to stop, when everything in you screams, "Enough." But the warrior keeps going. The builder keeps walking. The believer keeps swinging. Because they know what the others don't. The wall isn't infinite. It breaks. It always breaks. So when the moment comes, and it will, when the world feels too heavy, when your mind whispers to quit, remember these words. Remember why you began. Remember the fire that once lit your soul. Remember that you are not here to almost make it. You are here to finish. You are here to rise. You are here to see the miracle through. Look at your hands. Every scar, every callus, every mark, they're not signs of weakness. They're proof you've already survived everything that tried to break you. You didn't come this far to walk away. You didn't bleed this much to give the mountain your back. You didn't rise from everything you've endured just to quit 3 inches from gold. Stand up. Breathe deeper than the doubt. Plant your feet like roots in the storm. The wind will howl. The night will stretch. The silence will press against your bones. And you will look it in the eye and whisper, "You can't break me. I've already decided." And that decision, that unshakable commitment, is what turns ordinary lives into legends. And when the miracle finally happens, when the door cracks, when the light floods the hallway, when everything you fought for finally stands in front of you, it won't be luck. It won't be coincidence. It will be proof. Proof that every second in the dark mattered. Proof that every storm served its purpose. Proof that your miracle was never late. It was waiting for you to become the person strong enough to hold it. This is why you can't quit. Not now. Not when the air gets thin. Not when the world turns cold. Because the world doesn't remember those who almost did. It remembers those who stood their ground. It remembers those who rose. It remembers those who carried fire through the rain. You are closer than you think. Your miracle is not in another lifetime. It's one step past the pain. One step past the doubt. One step past the night that feels endless. Keep walking. Keep swinging. Keep believing. The darkness isn't your enemy. It's your threshold. And when you cross it, when the miracle finally stands before you, the same world that once ignored you will call you unstoppable. But deep down, you'll know the truth. You weren't chosen by the miracle. You became the kind of person who could hold it. So don't quit. Not here. Not now. Not ever. The miracle is already waiting for you to arrive. Every human reaches a crossroads in their journey, a point where the road splits in two. On one side lies the comfort of quitting, the softness of excuses, the easy path that leads to nothing but empty echoes. On the other side lies the fire, unforgiving, relentless, the path where every step demands everything you are. Most people choose the first road because the second demands blood. But what they don't see is that the fire is not there to destroy them. It's there to forge them. Your miracle is standing on the other side of that fire, waiting, not impatiently, but silently, knowing that only the one who walks through it can hold it. Because if it came easily, it would slip through your fingers just as easily. You must become the person worthy of the weight of your own dream. And that happens in the struggle, in the sleepless nights, in the silence that tests your spirit. That is where your miracle sharpens its edges, waiting for you to meet it fully alive. The world will never beg you to keep going. It won't clap when you're bleeding. It won't reward your halfway steps. It doesn't bend for those who almost made it. It bends for those who break the wall with their bare hands. It listens to those who keep walking when everything else has gone still. And if you choose to keep going, even when the air is razor thin, even when your legs are shaking, even when your voice trembles, the world will not just listen. It will move. Greatness has always belonged to the unreasonable ones. The ones who refuse to accept the world as it is. The ones who say, "No, this is not how my story ends." They tear open doors that were never meant to open. They hold their ground when storms tear through everything around them. They outlast those who mock them. They don't wait for permission. They don't bow to fear. They become the storm. This is what quitting steals from you. It doesn't just take the dream. It takes the person you were becoming. It takes the strength that was waiting to be born in the heat of battle. It takes the miracle that was one breath away. Quitting is not escape. It's self-burial. It is walking away from your own future and calling it fate. But you were not born for halfway lives. You were born to rise. The weight you carry right now is not a punishment. It's proof that you've been chosen for something bigger than the ordinary. The storm you're standing in is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of proximity. People don't face this kind of resistance when they're far from their dream. They face it when they're standing at the door. The storm rages hardest right before it breaks. And that is why most people quit right here. They're not weak, they just didn't realize how close they were. Every person who has ever built something legendary walked through this threshold. They felt the doubt. They felt the loneliness. They felt the crushing silence. But they walked anyway. That's the difference. Not talent. Not luck. Decision. The decision to keep showing up. The decision to burn the escape routes. The decision to rise one more time when everything says, "Stay down." This is the moment that will define you. Not the applause. Not the outcome. This moment, when no one sees you, when nothing feels certain, when the world is cold. This is the moment legends are born. This is the hour the ordinary quit. But you are not ordinary. You've bled too much to turn back. You've carried too much to let it end here. You've seen too much of who you could be to walk away from that miracle waiting with your name carved on it. And when it comes, and it will, everything will make sense. The nights that broke you. The storms that bruised you. The silence that mocked you. It will all make sense. Because the miracle is not just what you get. It's what you become. It's the unshakable strength in your bones. The fire in your chest. The unbreakable calm in your spirit. That's what happens when you outlast the darkness. So listen to me now. Don't just hear this. Feel it. Engrave it into your bones. When your mind whispers to quit, that's when you fight hardest. When the silence grows loud, that's when you speak to yourself louder. When your legs tremble, that's when you plant your feet in the ground and grow roots. When your vision shakes, that's when you remember why you began. Don't you dare give up on the miracle waiting just beyond this storm. Don't you dare walk away 3 inches from the gold. Don't you dare throw away the fire that carried you this far. This world will try to tame you, silence you, make you small. But miracles do not belong to the small. They belong to the bold. This is your line in the sand. The moment you decide that you will not be like most people. The moment you decide that you will not quit before the miracle happens. The moment you claim your future with both hands. And when you do, when you choose to stay when everyone else leaves, one day they will call you unstoppable. They will call you fearless. They will call you chosen. But deep down, you'll know the truth. You weren't chosen by luck. You became the person who never left. This is your fire. This is your moment. The miracle is waiting. Walk through the storm and take what's already yours.